Hello, everybody. So we did have welcome to the ASI officer with myself, Susan Docherty, and Matt Crilly. We did actually go live earlier, but we had a bit of an issue. It kicked us out, so we had to start again. So apologies if anybody was waiting. I can see that we don't have anybody on, so I'm hoping that we are live now. I think it should be absolutely fine. Maybe just a wee bit slow. So we've got a couple of minutes for some people to join. Matt, hi there, Zoe. Here we go. So Zoe, we had a bit of technical issues, so that's why we're a couple of minutes late. So people are starting to join now, so that's great. So hello everybody, hope you're all doing okay in your first week back of teaching. I'm sure everybody knows me by now, but for those who don't, I'm Susan, I'm the GCU Student President, and I'm joined by Matt Crilly. Matt is the National Union of Students, or NUS Scotland President. So I'll be giving you a wee catch up on what I've been up to over Christmas and into the new year until present day on your behalf to combat a range of issues from rent rebate, financial poverty, to placements for our student nurses. I'll also give you a quick account of what I've been up to over the festive period to help students who were living alone or in isolation. But first I'm going to bring in Matt, and I'll get Matt to introduce himself and tell you a little bit about himself. Matt.
Hello, Susan. I'm Matt Crilly. I'm the president of the National Youth Students in Scotland, as Susan said. We are a federation of pretty much all of the student associations in Scotland. So that's where we come together and campaign nationally on things that are impacting students. And it's fair to say there are quite a few things impacting students at the moment. It's a particularly challenging year. But yeah, we are where we come together through the NUS to try and affect some national change.
Thanks very much, Matt. So thanks for taking the time. I know how busy you are, especially at a time like this. I know how hard you've been sort of working and campaigning on behalf of the students and the students' associations. So I'm just going to dive right into a couple of things, if that's okay. So I was looking at the recent figures, and they show that 59% of students aren't working, compared with 27% in July. And as well as that, there's a massive, I think it was 64% on the NUS website, stating that their finances have been impacted by coronavirus. Myself and other officers at GCU, as well as student leaders across Scotland, joined your campaign, the NUS campaign, in writing to the First Minister, calling for urgent government action. So if you could briefly just tell students or anybody watching what a little bit about this, and also about the NUS hashtag Students Deserve Better campaign that myself, the Students Association and other VPs have joined, and also a wee bit about the recent 30 million in student hardship and institution funding that have came about. That would be great.
Sure.
A lot there, sorry, all at once.
No, I mean, as you said, Susan, it's a really stark time, and we conduct these surveys to try and get an idea of what everyone's going through at the moment, what students are going through, and the stats are really worrying. So the one that stands out to me the most is if you put 100 students in a lecture theatre right now, pre-COVID, if you can imagine we're in a lecture theatre, 100 of us, 14 students in that lecture theatre are relying on food banks to get by and actually feed themselves, and 25 haven't been able to pay their rent in full over the last couple of months. The stats are really quite terrifying. And as you said, so we made sure that the public know about these statistics, that the government knows that what students are going through. So we took this to the media, got press coverage, the BBC to run it on multiple occasions. We sent a letter to the First Minister asking for urgent action and urgent support. And last week we hosted a meeting with the Scottish Government Minister for Further and Higher Education, Richard Lochhead, where we platform students that are in this position so that the government could hear directly from students that are relying on food banks to get by, that are unable to pay their rent. And as you said, I think 2 days ago now, we got the Scottish Government announcement of £20 million in additional hardship funding to help students. So the situation is bleak, but I do think when we come together through student associations, NUS, we can affect change and speak to decision makers to try and get support the situation obviously requires so much more support. I think there's so much more that we can and should do, because the situation is so bad. But that's kind of generally what we've been campaigning for recently. We've also today, as we're live right now, the Scottish Government is announcing their budget for the next year, the Scottish Government budget, and we've put an ask to essentially get more money into students' pockets, because we are struggling. Students are losing their jobs. Like, as a population, we often work in bars and nightclubs and different kind of areas of the economy which have just been totally hit this year. And the stats are striking about students losing work. And so we've put in requests to the Scottish Government to try and get more funding for students in this year's budget. I don't know how it's going just now. I might start receiving texts as to whether there's stuff there for students or not, but it's really our hope. And in the last couple of weeks, we've been running a campaign for encouraging students to email their MSP to try and get support. And we have got quite a lot of support across the Scottish Parliament for more funding for students. So I do hope that there's some stuff in the budget for us as well. Students Deserve Better is more encompassing than just the kind of financial situation. Of course, our learning and teaching has been hit hard this year. You know, we think there's a need for all institutions, unis, colleges to be more supportive of students, put in more flexible policies to make sure that there's a recognition that we're trying to produce coursework during a pandemic, and a whole range of other issues, including rent.
Obviously, as a Students Association, we have taken part in the hashtag Students Deserve Better. We have, emailed our local SPs. We put it on sort of our social media, Students Association, as well as the officer. So definitely keen to see the outcome of that. I know for us at GCU, I go to the exec board on a weekly basis, and we're really lucky that the partnership working is so good. So any issues that students bring to our attention, we take it to the exec board, and they will work as much as possible to try and find a solution. So we're really lucky in that sense. But if I can just say, if anybody's got any questions for myself and Matt, at the moment I would say Matt to begin with while he's here, that would be great, and then some questions for myself after it, or for the both of us, just put them in the chat and I'll highlight them and we'll speak about them. So do you think we might get a wee exclusive while you're on here then, if you start to get any news from about the budget?
I don't know. Potentially, we'll see. I've got my WhatsApp open, so if stuff drops, and I might see it. We usually have a think about before we release a press statement as well, though. So I might be slightly poker faced at whatever we get, so we get time to consider what it says. But yeah, so we might see it.
Yeah. So you were the Strathclyde president before this, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep, and then you took this role on. So how have you found it? I mean, obviously it's a bit like myself taking on the student president role while a pandemic's happening. So it's a bit unique. So how have you found the role? Well, obviously through this sort of really strange time.
Yeah, I mean, to say it's unique would be an understatement. So I started off the pandemic and I was still at Strathclyde, and it obviously dealt with the initial. I mean, it's hard to actually think back to kind of March time last year when our campuses closed before lockdown, and remember the kind of uncertainty that took place with our learning and just the unbelievable flux, and quite early on. You had students that were stuck in halls. At this point, remember, students didn't have the legal right to leave student accommodation. So one of the things that I think we all as student officers across Scotland came together on, and NUS through my predecessor Liam as well, fought quite early on to get the legal right for students to give notice on student accommodation. To leave student accommodation, and that's a legal right that we hadn't had before. So I remember that kind of quite early on. In terms of taking on this role for me, I mean, it's been a total whirlwind. Obviously, like it's you know, getting chucked in front of TV cameras and radio stations and stuff that I just do not feel like, I don't know. It's quite an overwhelming experience to be put in that environment.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We're trying our best, I think, to just like amplify the issues that students are going through, that the things that we're facing. I hope it can only get better. Like, I don't know if it can get much worse than September time at the start of the academic year, but I think we're all getting to a stage now where students are just feeling really, I don't know, it's just we're at a stage where I think folk are feeling increasingly isolated, you know, haven't been able to maybe make as many friends or see friends as much, and I think we're getting to a stage where it's getting more difficult to keep going. But I hope everyone can keep going and continue.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the anxiety levels seem to be sort of increasing a wee bit as well for students. Obviously, you know, over Christmas and exam time is especially hard. And obviously we've got this year students who are digitally excluded. Just on that point, actually, we bought in, the university bought in, I think it was 500 laptops, as well as dongles for students. We've got laptops left for students. We have laptops and dongles left. So just to sort of put that out there, I will put it out in my next vlog, but we've got a whole range of laptops, dongles, so don't be sitting struggling, you know, with your phone. That is the worst thing, or a laptop that isn't working. Don't think also that you maybe need to fit a certain criteria. We will look at absolutely everybody, you know, in a case-by-case basis, you know. So some people think, well, you know, I'm living with my mum and my dad maybe, and the both of them work, so I don't qualify, but contact university. I'll put the details on here after the live talk, and there's plenty of laptops there, so don't be struggling. Because I think that's a big issue for people, as well as I think the dongles are really important as well, because if you're sharing a house with your sister, your brother, your mum, your dad, or a partner, or you know, your kids who are like working, you know, try to do homework, and everybody's on, and the bandwidth is terrible, and you can't hear your class. Things like a dongle is really important. You might have a laptop, but to be able to have access to something like that, I think is really important, and use it. You know, that's why we fought. Well, I'm saying we asked the university for it, and right away they were more than willing to fund it and to buy in the laptops and the dongles for us. And we bought in more than enough, so utilise it. I'm going to go to some of the questions I've got here. Okay, so we have the first question.
Oh wow, it's up on the screen. This is good.
Yep,
this is tech. This is some technology.
So, hello, yes, very difficult for us financially. We're also struggling to find even part-time jobs in this pandemic. The better if the government university help us in that situation. So we have a hardship fund at GCU. Matt can tell you more about nationally, but we've got the hardship fund there. That means that you can apply for the hardship funds. Again, before Christmas, I put out to let people know that we're going to look at everybody in a case-to-case basis, not just students who fit a certain criteria. There was also, if you're in the past, you're applying for discretionary funds or you're hardship funds, you have to show, certain sort of evidence. They will look at it a case-to-case basis. So contact the student help. I will again post it here, the actual email address and the link to it on the website. And what I would say is apply. Just apply. If you're not sure if you're going to get it, apply. And tell them your circumstances. The last thing we want is students struggling financially, not being able to eat, not being able to pay their rent, and that's what we were here. And that's also the same for international students. We did say that we would take in a case-by-case basis, and we will look at every single student to be able to help as much as we can. So I'll put the details on here. So I hope that helps, Shindini. What I would say is definitely contact the university. I'll put the link on. But Matt, if you get anything you want to say about that, about the funding that's been put in place?
No, I think as you said, Susan, I would just encourage people to contact the university and ask for help. Like, make it known that you're struggling financially. try and access discretionary funding, all the things you have. My job's at a national level is to try and get more money into those pots to make sure that it can help more students, and hopefully kind of lessen the criteria as well to be able to reach a threshold. It is a really hard situation though, and we are continuously campaigning at a national level to try and get more financial support made available for students. But yeah, it's really hard. I think especially for students because unlike other parts of the population, we aren't. Most students aren't entitled to different benefits like universal credit, things like that. So that's why we become reliant on these hardship funds. But yeah, do apply and make yourself known, and we'll keep fighting at a national level to try and get more funding and maybe a more structural solution as well to the problems.
Yeah, I think that for over the summer, for instance, I think that the government has to, at the moment, students you can apply for SAS. And then over summer there was no jobs for people, so there were students who were definitely struggling over the summer period. I think that's something that needs to be looked at for the summer, for next year, for this year actually, for the summer coming this year, so that students have got, a structure in place that they can sort of apply before they finish university, before they come back again in September, because normally people would have their part-time jobs, and as you say, jobs in hospitality that students would normally work in, a lot are gone, so many people, places to get a business. So definitely apply for that. We'll take another question. So this one is from Irene. GCU student here feeling very overwhelmed and stressed. Definitely not the unique experience I was expecting, but got to try to stay positive. Completely feel for you. I think, everybody's feeling that up to a point, to be honest. Overwhelmed in the fact that, I think when you're on campus and you're speaking to your pals and you can put it into perspective more, but when you're on your own in your room and you've all these deadlines and work to do, it can most definitely be overwhelming and stressful, but definitely try and stay positive. We've got the advice centre at the Students Association, so if you're feeling any issues at all, speak to them. They can sort of guide you in the right direction, because the university as well, we've got a wellbeing team, and the wellbeing team have put so much in place for mindfulness, for study skills, for helping you if you're feeling overwhelmed. So there's a lot there. I think a lot of people, because they're online and they're doing their work online, they don't always, like sort of go into maybe the website the way they would normally, but go into the website and just, go into the wellbeing pages and you'll see a whole range of stuff there. We've got counsellors, extra counsellors in, lots of stuff in place. We've got our Together All, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week access to, it's like a wall that you can go into and you can sort of discuss and talk with other people about how you're feeling as well. Do you want to come and mention some of that, Matt, before I go to the next question?
I think so. I don't know precisely. You probably know more, Susan, like what it looks like at Crilly. But I have seen different student clubs and societies this year still operating some form of like online events, and I'm sure you folks at GCUSA are running online events as well. Like sometimes it's a bit awkward to join an online event, these kind of social events. But I've found it good to put myself into these different circumstances with like new people in these different Zoom events and just try and do it. It's a little bit awkward sometimes, but I think it's good to break out of your bubble. Like I live alone in this flat, so I don't see people. I think it's good to get to see kind of new people this year. So consider, have a look out if any of the clubs and societies at Crilly are running online events. And I guess if you're on your course as well, like perhaps create something on your course, because I'm sure you might be in a tutorial or an online Zoom lecture, and you might be able to interact with your classmates, and I think that's really, really important. So if you haven't done it already, like consider doing it on the Facebook chat and on the group, like propose something to have a bit of a more social experience that we're kind of missing some of these opportunities that we usually have.
I think so. I think also, so many students are in group chats, WhatsApp, whatever, and I know the chats that I'm sort of involved in with students. One person says, I'm feeling really stressed today, I'm having a bad day, and everybody is on it, because everybody's feeling the same and they totally empathise, and everybody's been there at some stage. So I think that's a great idea, Matt. a lot of our societies and sports groups are still holding things online. Obviously, sports can't do anything on campus, neither can the societies. But a lot of them are still really, really active. They're doing weekly socials. And the good thing about these socials, as you say, it's a bit sort of cringy at first when you're first going on it, you don't know anybody. But, you know, and you sit there quite quiet. But I know the majority of the societies and the sport clubs, I know they're so welcoming. You know, they're wanting new people to join. They'll do anything to sort of have new faces in there. And, you know, and it's a support network as well, you know, rather than maybe people from your course. So I would definitely do that. We've also got our liberation groups, our representation groups. I've been working a lot with River. They are our LGBT plus officer, and they are running the glitter ball this year, which is absolutely fantastic. That's something you could get involved in. The glitter ball is going to be open to all students. It's going to be open to allies and representation and liberation groups. So it's something that you could maybe get involved in. So look out for the comms in that. River will be putting a lot of comms out, and they have got so many different ideas for the glitter ball this year. I think it would be absolutely fantastic. So I'll take another question. Who've we got next? We'll talk of the devil. We have River. So River said, do you think the Scottish University are going to take their time on getting back on campus safely, like months, a yearish? Well, I mean, maybe in my opinion is I think it will be September, but I don't know. But I'm thinking I don't think it's going to be this year, personally. But I don't have any inside information. That is just my sort of opinion, the way it's going with the way the coronavirus is going. Have you got a thought on that, Matt?
So I guess, of course, the current guidance is going to bring back some absolutely critical placements, and it's going to bring, some of them are already taking place on campuses, and kind of out in the work placements, and some more practical learning will be taking place at some point in the next couple of weeks, and a kind of gradual return. And then of course there's the kind of vague thing from the government of, it's almost like a to be confirmed, isn't it? Like from sometime in the beginning of March onwards, as to whether we'll be back. I don't know. I think it's really difficult to say at this point. My worry is for those that are on kind of really practical based courses, like whether just making sure that people get access to the learning that they need to you know, go on and finish, get your degree and go out and into the world. So yeah, it's quite easy, I think, it's not easy, but it's easier to do a kind of humanities based degree, which I'm a history student. It's easier to do that, I think, via Zoom than if you need access to like a laboratory or, you know, big heavy engineering equipment and things. So I think we need to make sure that those that are on practical courses, and this is what we are saying to the government, is that we need to make sure that people can graduate, and that's my big worry just now, is to make sure people can graduate. We only want to do this when it's safe, though. And there's people far more qualified than me, like public health experts, to deem what is safe and what isn't. But yeah, I think it is going to be challenging. Some of it might be up to individual universities to make a call on who comes back. So we're starting to see some unis around Scotland saying to students, you're not going to be back on campus for the rest of the year. That's happening at other universities, I think, just now. So I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to say. But
yeah. I think personally, I think that you know, at first our stance was that we wanted, you know, first years, if it's your first year, whether your articulation or you're straight into first year or first year, second, you know, articulating into second or third year, we wanted these students to have that experience. We wanted international students to have that experience, and we also obviously student nurses and people who do practical classes. As time went on and it's not getting any better, you know, so GCU kept it at less than 10% anyway, you know, just to be on the safe side. And it was only essential. And at the moment, you know, it has to only just be essential, because we need to try and get our head around this. We need to try and get the numbers down, you know, and try and get into a different tier, so that, you know, for the health and well-being of everybody. So I hope that answers.
I think you're right. Like I think like we do need to make sure that students are safe, that staff are safe. Like, you know,
Yeah.
the COVID numbers are really harrowing at the moment, and we do need to make sure that everyone's safe. Of course, I guess one of the things that's a massive frustration for us is with this kind of uncertainty, the fact that folk are still paying rent on accommodation that they might not be using right now, and particularly in the private sector, those that are in private flats and private halls, and paying rent, and you know, we're supposed to come back to campus at some time in the future potentially, and the government is saying, you know, if you're not there already, don't go back to it. And that's a major issue, and we've been really trying to get government intervention on the issue of rent, to try and make sure that students aren't out of pocket. I think with the additional hardship funding that we saw a couple of days ago, that means those that are struggling the most can access some financial support, but there's still a much broader structural issue, where we have thousands and thousands of students across Scotland that are paying rent on accommodation that they're not using.
So on that, so students so one of the things I worked on over after Christmas just into the new year was the students obviously then been told by the government not to return, and you know, longer than anticipated. So we worked with university and who agreed that students would get a rebate for the days that they have not been able to return due to obviously the government restrictions, and that they'll be looking at the beginning of February, and people will start to get rebates on a case-by-case basis, obviously depending on how long you are away. Also for students who decided not to return, there were no penalties at all. You know, they were only charged for the days that they had been there, and they were getting let out. So we did that last year anyway, like from the beginning, from Try-A. And also, I know that some people who didn't want to return, they still had their stuff at Crilly Court, and the university sort of, you know, packed their stuff and delivered it, which was so good. You know, the staff, the security up at Crilly Court, a wee shout out for them. They're absolutely fantastic. Their security guys, they will honestly do anything for the students. I think we're really, I'm sure it's the same at every university, but yeah, at GCU, I just think they're amazing.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think, as you're saying, like those that are in university-owned accommodation, I think are getting the flex. What we are hearing about as the national union is those that are in private situations and private halls and private flats not getting that flex. And some of the things that the government is kind of issued within their guidance. For example, if you are in private student halls right now and you've given notice to leave your accommodation, we heard some reports of some private halls providers telling students to come back right now, collect your belongings, or else they're going to be destroyed, even though it's pretty clear that we're being told not to return to campus. Within the new guidance that the government issued, they said that private halls providers should safely store a student's belongings until such a time that students can come and collect it when the pandemic has lessened and there's less of a risk. So if you are in that situation, you know, do get in contact with probably your student association, get in contact with me at NUS. That's some of the issues that we've been challenging this year, I think, quite strongly, is some of the private halls, again, like not letting students out of their contracts to leave, even though we've secured that legal right. And it's within the government guidance.
And I think it's up to all of us. You know, just because we're not in that situation, we can't just say, oh, that's a shame. We have to do something about it. We need to fight for everybody else, you know, and because we want the same done. So yeah, it's up to us all to take a stance. Just, are you okay for another couple of minutes, Matt? I can sort of put in a couple of comments up. So I'll just quickly show you this one from our old buddy, Ailey Fulton. Hope you're keeping well, Matt. Hi, Ailey. It's nice to see your wee picture. And then Zoe, our VP of Skebby, has said, well said, Matt, it's great seeing lots of our sports and societies still hosting online training, socials and events. So yeah, definitely, I think our societies and our sports, I think they have been absolutely fantastic for the Students' Association and all our groups, of course, as well. You know, it's not just that. I've seen that Monica has put here the Esco Environmental Group should have some events running in the next few weeks. So we've got a lot of our you know, wider groups hosting so many socials, you know, trying to sort of get students involved. So definitely urge students to take part, and we thank all of them for that, for their hard work.
Yeah, especially that last one there. Like, it's cool to see, you know, ethical environmental group running right now. Like, I think we as students have a big role to play in tackling climate change, and especially if you're a student at Crilly in Glasgow with the COP coming later this year.
Yeah.
It's going to descend on Glasgow, and we're going to be the centerpiece of the world, and hopefully try to combat climate change. And so I think there's big opportunities for students in Glasgow to get involved in that. There's going to be, I think, God, like, who knows where the pandemic will be at this point. So some of this, it's already been postponed by, who knows, but there might be big, exciting events right on our doorsteps that we can get involved in. Yeah, and I know that the council for volunteers.
Yeah, I'm hoping that some of our society, so we've got a lot of, we've got the Ethical and Environmental Committee group, we've also got like our Extinction Rebellion, so I started a Sustainable Development Goal Society this year, so that's just sort of started, so it'd be good to, you know, to get as many people involved as possible. As you say, I think Glasgow City Council started looking for volunteers, which is great, you know, but I don't really sort of believe in, like, I think volunteering, but you know, I think maybe some sort of, you know, students are struggling as it is, you know, trying to find work and then sort of having to volunteer. But anyway, that's maybe a bit controversial. I'm going to do one more question, Matt, before I know you need to go, and then I can sort of finish off with a couple of wee things to let people know. So student nurses are expected to be back on campus for a 2-day face-to-face training, also 2-month placement. Well, Cal Court does short-term lets with students. That's my dog barking. Sorry about that. So Cal Court, so basically we have already had students contacting us asking us about this. We had the Nursing Society had already contacted Bill Kimberley, who I know well. She contacted me. We spoke to the university, and we have put on places for. So normally the student nurses get free accommodation if they have to, maybe they're from, you know, far afield or whatever. This time we were offering the free accommodation to students who have to, who've got family, who, you know, have to shield, and it means if they're in placement, they're not sort of putting anybody at risk. But obviously, because of coronavirus, you know, we're having to stagger the spaces. So the spaces, so I believe that the spaces that were allocated have maybe gone, but I'm not 100% sure. All the students I had, maybe about, you know, a dozen students contacted me, and I've sent them the details. So Lynn, what I will do is I'm going to put the details in the chat here for you, or what I'll do is I'll private message you, and what to do is contact and see if there's any places left. And again, as I say, that it's going to be for students. Priority will be given to students who need to shield because they are family members. So I don't know your circumstances, but I'll send you the message. You can contact them and see if it's something that they can help you with. All right. So just to say thank you very much, Matt. I'm going to just finish off in just a couple of minutes telling students what I've been up to, but we'll let you get off, and thank you so much. I know you're really tired. You've been up late nights doing so much. I know your pain. So thanks so much for coming. I don't know if you want to say one last thing before you leave.
No, thank you for having me, Susan, and just for, I guess, students at Crilly, if you have issues right now as a student, if you're struggling financially, all these kind of things, like, your student association is there to help you, and your student association, Susan speaks to me regularly, feeds stuff up to me as a national level, and then we raise it with the government, you know, with all these big decision makers. And literally at 3 o'clock today, I'm going into a meeting with the government, and that's where we raise student issues regularly. So if you are facing challenges on your campus, not trying to inundate Susan's inbox right now, but you know, let Susan know about it, and I'm sure she'll let me know as well.
Yeah, and just on that, we meet up once a week. So myself and the other officers, we meet up with Matt and all the officers throughout Scotland for an NUS All Scotland COVID meeting. And we do that on a weekly basis, still every week, isn't it? And we sort of catch up and we discuss any issues that we've got with other universities, and we sort of benchmark and we get ideas from each other. So yeah, happy to take any ideas or to take any issues forward. So thanks a lot, Matt.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, Susan. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly finish off. Sorry about my dog barking in the background there. and I will have another wee quick look at the messages. So just to sort of give you a wee idea on what I've been working on since the first ASSE officer. So over Christmas we held 10 events. So we had 9 events for students to come and get involved in. We had bake-offs and quizzes and not in a pub quiz, and we had Kahoot and so many different things, and you get the chance to win Just Eat vouchers. So that went really well. We also had an event on Christmas Day that ran with alumni. So it was myself and the Gillian and John from alumni, and we had another event with students and alumni on Christmas Day. So that went really well. I took part in the Strategy 2030 event the other day and did a talk about how the Students' Association has been involved with the university and completing the strategy, being part of it, and we have and the partnership working that we have been involved in, and I know a lot of the students here have been involved in that as well. We also discussed with the university things like rent rebates and refunds, which I spoke briefly on with Matt there. I'll put the details on the chat in a wee second. We asked if students were having difficulties due to the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically our student parents, because obviously when they said that homeschool was going to continue, you know, I got a barrage of emails from students who are trying to homeschool kids, trying to hold down a job, trying to, you know, sort of juggle exams and uni work. So we'd asked that they not to be disadvantaged in any way. Obviously up until Monday, I think it was there, you could, or Friday was the deadline, but they extended it for a few days. Students could apply for mitigating circumstances without the requirement to provide evidence. So myself and the other VPs are going into a meeting next week with the university. So I know a lot of people have been asking us about no detriment policy. So there isn't, I know there's a sector-wide, they're not actually having a no detriment policy. However, there is things put in place, and there's things that is going to be put in place. Myself and other officers are going into a meeting next week with the university, and we will make sure that clear communications go out to all students to let you know what's already in place and what is getting put in place to sort of help you, because we know it's been a hard time for everybody, and that's why myself and other officers are going into that meeting sort of to discuss. We also discussed poverty and hardship, something that I took to the university that I've been taking to last year since coronavirus hit, something we still talk about, poverty and hardship, and we asked that the hardship funds be open to everybody, not just people that, you know, fit certain criteria. And the university said that they would definitely look at all applications on a case-by-case basis. So I urge you to apply whatever your circumstances. You can contact the student funding team for assistance, and even applying if you're not sure to apply, if it's something you just can't bear the thought of sort of filling in another form, they will help you. They'll give you guidance, they'll help you fill it in, and you can email funding@gcu.ac.uk. I will put that on the chat as well. We also discussed students' concerns about placements. So I know there was communications going out from the school regarding this. So there's been a whole load of issues. We, as I said, we attended the NUS officer COVID meetings. And the university has been open to discuss any sort of issues with us at all, which is great. So if there is any issues, please drop me a message either on Messenger or president@gcustudents.co.uk, and we'll look at them and we'll take them to exec board every single week. So I'm just going to quickly go to the messages before I go. Let's have a wee look. So, Zoe, in this hard year, what's been your biggest win so far? There's been quite a lot, I would say. I think that the hardship funds, the digital poverty for students, I think the fact that the partnership working with the university, every single issue that students have brought to us as a students association, to myself and to the VPs, I've taken forward to the exec board on a weekly basis, and we have found solutions for near enough absolutely everything. So quite a lot. Obviously, the student nurses are going through a lot as well, getting the accommodation for them, you know, and extra support regarding placements and things. I think it's been absolutely brilliant. Let's have another wee quick look. So we've got, let's have a look. We have been running some Netflix parties and things like that as well. So that's absolutely brilliant. So get involved with your societies and your clubs. And the last one I'm going to take from Zoe What's this been your last few months in your role? How have you found the overall experience? Fabulous. It's been great. Okay, it's not been what I expected. Obviously, being online, not being on campus. But I had obviously the joy of last year being vice president and having an absolutely fantastic team, and we had such a great time. And give the chance to, attend different events with different officers throughout Scotland, which was great. Obviously, this year's been slightly different. Everything's been online. We've not been able to sort of be on campus. We can still talk to students, all the time online, but it's not the same as bumping into them in campus. And obviously, as a team, we've not been able to, sort of go to all the places we would normally for training and team bonding and all that sort of thing. But I think we've done well, and I think we've managed it well. So I found it interesting and a good experience, something that will stay with me forever, Zoe. So thank you very much, and thanks everybody. And I'll put all the details on the chat that I spoke about, and I hope you all have a lovely day. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.